today's video, we're going to talk about contrast. Why? Because in contrast, there's something really special that happens when there's a difference. Regardless of the difference, the listener is going to pay attention. Tomato. Get it? We're going to get started right after this. Tomato. I could have picked a better word, but I bet you remember that word, right? Why? Because it wasn't said like tomato. No, tomato. That's what we're going to talk about today. All right, the backing track we're using, as usual, is available for free with the charts. And you're going to need those charts, those scale diagrams, because there's a little bit of complexity in this backing track. But I'm going to guide you through it. And if you take it step by step, the theory beside it, the change of scales, is really not that complicated if you have a method. And the main focus here in this lesson is to embrace differences in volume. Typically when you're playing a lick, you're improvising or whatever, you're playing, and then at some point, if you want to accentuate something, what do? Well, you just... you play it louder, attack louder, and all that. Whereas, really, that might be a mistake, because typically our volumes are close to the top on 10, sometimes on 9, but from 9 you can only go to 10. However, if you look at the other way, from 9, as far as the volume goes, you can go to 5 or 4 or 3. There's a lot more range to explore on the other side, and that's what we're going to do. Now, the intro of this video, remember, tomato. That is really important, because that made the point that sometimes the idea, the word, the note, the lick, or whatever it is that you want to make stand out, it really has nothing to do with volume. Say something in contrast at a lower volume than when you're used to playing, that makes the listener think that, oh, what he's telling me here is really important. I want to grab that secret and make it my own in a way. Okay, before we get into a few ideas to develop that, let's talk about this track right here. The track is made of several keys, scales, modes, and those words, if you've been following me for a while, can be confusing. So we're going to replace those by alphabets. It's really helpful, I think. We've got different alphabets that we're going to use to converse with the backing track. The first part, we've got a switch of alphabet pretty fast. We're switching from the F Ionian alphabet, F major, to the F Aeolian, F natural minor alphabet. Let's hear what that sounds like. F major, F minor right here. Okay, so 2 bars per each, major and minor. If I play this, it sounds something like this. Major, minor, and so forth. So you need to modulate pretty smoothly, and it's very simple if you know the blueprint of these scales. We are talking a little bit about scales, and then we'll talk about that contrast concept. So you need to know the blueprint. What is a blueprint? Well, the blueprint is what tells you that this scale is this scale and not the other one. It's a series of numbers, intervals, that you need to know. And we're going to find some similarities between the F Ionian alphabet and the F Aeolian alphabet. Let me show you that real quick here. We're going to work in the same type of position. So whether it's 3-note per string or caged, it doesn't matter, but you need to use the same system to visualize this. And I'm going to pick the 3-note per string, which is a little easier to do when you modulate. So F Ionian is made of, and that's where the charts that you can download are really handy. The link is below, top line of the description. But the Ionian is made of the following intervals. 1, which is our F. And the cool thing is that 1, the F, is the same first letter of the alphabet for both of these keys, F Ionian, F Aeolian. So that's our visual reference. 1. Okay, so we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7 notes, it's a 7-letter alphabet. If I use the correct names, we've got root, major 2nd, major 3rd, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, major 6th, and major 7th. The Aeolian, which is the second key, also has a 1, which is the same one. The root, F, also has a major second, but we have a flat third or a minor third, which is 1 fret lower than the major right here. So that's a note that you need to pay attention to because you can't stay on the same note for both keys. So keep that in mind. The third is a transition note. Then we have a perfect fourth, just like the Ionian, a perfect fifth, just like Ionian. Then we have a flat sixth. The Ionian has a major sixth. Here we have a flat sixth, and we have a minor seventh instead of a major seventh for Ionian. What does that mean? Well, that means that those notes, the notes that differ, that are different, are the modulating notes. Those are the notes that you're going to have to alter, change whenever you switch tracks, whenever the backing track switches alphabets. So keep that in mind. The third, the sixth, and the seventh are transitional notes. If you have that, then it's easy to start playing, and as long as you're aware of the letters of the alphabet you're on, just modulate when there's a new key. So that allows you to do things like this. Major, 1, 2, 3. Up, minor, 1, 2, flat 3. Okay, so that's the first tip. All right, let's continue a little bit with these scales, and yeah, promise we'll talk about the contrast. It's all linked, as you'll see. So we've got that going on for a little while. We're transitioning, modulating from major to minor, back to major, major here, minor. I'll play a little bit with that, back to major, minor. Just a few notes are enough. Okay, here is the change. All this is minor. You stay in minor. Here's harmonic minor. And it starts over. So there are 3 scales that are available in the diagram that hopefully you've downloaded by now with this backing track. Okay, so there are some key changes in there, but that is good because that makes the music change a little bit. And not only that, but it's going to be a great support for the work we're going to do here to emphasize some ideas. And the emphasis is kind of built into that track. Naturally, even if you don't play, the thing you want to emphasize is the important thing, like right here. Change a key. Change a key here. So you start an idea in one key, and you finish it in the next. Right? Now we're going to inject. You know that word, right? I use it all the time. Those differences, the contrast. So let's say that, so right now we're just doing the Aeolian thing. We're in Aeolian contrast. You can work on that, but we're in Aeolian. Here's another lower note there, right? Lower in volume. And that made you pay attention even more than if I played it louder. So we're going to try that. That's the first step. Whenever we are modulating, changing keys, we're going to try that modulation with a difference in volume. And instead of going higher, you can go lower. Now, there is one thing I need to tell you about the tone that you're using, especially if you're using modelers like I'm doing right here. I'm going into my AxeFX2 right now, which is a digital thing, which is great. Love it. As a matter of fact, whether it's digital or analog, you run into the same issues sometimes when you're in a room like this with a lot of different electric components. You get a lot of noise. And that's why now my volume's all the way up. You don't hear that noise because I'm using a noise gate, which is not ideal for this kind of thing. So you're going to have to adjust your noise gate to the lowest threshold possible before it picks up, so that you have more range in the attack. And I did that before that. If I turned it off completely, you're going to start hearing some static noises, which I don't want here. especially with single coil pickups. Well, these are not single coils, but single coil pickups do that quite a bit. But I've got that kind of adjusted here. And what I'm going to do is turn my volume all the way up, and then I'm going to back up maybe 2. So if all the way up is 10, all the way down is 0, I'm going to go to around 8. So I'm going to do like maybe 2/10 of a turn. And I'm going to play. I'm going to just try to adjust that to get a feel. Now, every guitar is going to be a little different. Pickup doesn't, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter right now. I'm on the bridge pickup. But I'm going to start playing the loudest note that I can. And I'm going to back up a little bit until, okay, I don't hear anything here. That's the noise gate kicking in. You want to be able to play at least 3 notes that sound a little bit different in volume depending on your attack. If you don't have that, you might adjust your knob a little bit more, maybe a little higher, a little lower, but you want to have some range there. That's really important because your fingers are really going to control the amount of volume. And don't go all the way up on your guitar, because if you're at 8 and you want to be higher, you can always go to 10. But you kind of need to get used to that. Okay, so we're going to, now that we did this, we're going to practice our lower note volume. So I'm going to give you a simple phrase here. The phrase that I'm going to use is, I'm going to start with Ionian, which is that right here. We start in Ionian and then we'll end in minor, Aeolian. And for that, we're going to use these intervals. We're going to use 1, 2, 3, like I kind of did earlier. So 1, 2, 3 are the 3 notes that we're going to use on that first one. You can use them in any order, it doesn't matter. And that's the minor one. So there's only 1 note that will change in this lick between the 2 first keys. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, flat 3. When we modulate, we're going to target that flat 3 and we're going to play that flat 3 lower. So why not add something kind of cool, like maybe a little bend there to go from the second, a half step bend to go to that minor third. Let's try that. Very, very... almost not there, but that, if you start playing like this, it will kind of be built in. You won't have to think about it. So that's the first thing. When there is something happening in the track, emphasize that change by going lower, and then experiment, especially in that second part of the track, because right now we're just, we're kind of, it's kind of the opening of a story in a way, right? We're not like full in. It's not yet. That's not the climax. That'll come later. Right now we're kind of making introductions. Here's the climax. And all that happens in Aeolian. So you've got some ideas. Maybe you repeat an idea. Different volumes. You try to vary that, and I promise that at first it's going to sound a little not great, but you're going to have a lot more control if you force yourself to do that. So that's the idea. And what is that first word that I whispered? Tomato, right? You still remember it, so that's my point. Explore different things like that and try to add to your phrasing different things that make it really your own. It's not just about the choice of notes or the licks that you learned. Those are great, but really make them your own, and that's just one more thing you can do to do that. If this is your first visit, thank you so much for stopping by. You should subscribe if you liked what you saw. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, there's a new video just like this one, helping guitar players around the world find their voice on the instrument. This is your pencil. The pencil doesn't tell the story, the author does. Master this to bring out your deep personal ideas with the beautiful language of music. Thanks so much for watching this. Practice well. Grab the backing track and the charts below, and I'll see you very soon. Practice well.